Can you give me a basic description of what you do?
Yes, I'm an author, columnist, blogger, and I'm a forum moderator. And anything else, I support caregivers. Pretty much, my goal, my aim is to support caregivers along their journey, based on what I've been through, and also I'm very, very strong on preserving the dignity of the elders. My background is a family caregiver, as you've seen, and of multiple elders. So most caregivers can relate to me. I can generally tell them I've had a similar experience in one of my 7 elders to what they're going through. So anyway,
yes,
that, pardon? What was
I
that?
said you definitely can, yes.
Yes. And so anyway, that's what I do is really offer support, and from the depth of my experience, plus all the years I've done this, I've learned so much from other caregivers. So it all has built over the last decade to the point that it's a matter of give and take. But I do draw on my background a great deal, and I just want people to know they're not alone. That's the really the whole point of my website, my book, everything else I do, is they are not alone in this. When I first started, there was almost no support, and it was extremely isolating. And I know now how isolating even people can be now, even though there is a lot of support. So I try and help them along.
That's nice. What should a loved one do if they suspect their elderly loved one may have memory loss?
I would take the person to a physician who understands that memory loss may not be due to dementia. There are other causes. Then that's one of the reasons for so many misdiagnoses. UTIs, medication problems, and other health problems can have people acting like they've got dementia when they don't. They can mimic dementia-like behavior. So once those causes have been ruled out, then I'd make sure that they are given a battery of tests by some doctor, a specialist probably, who understands the different types of dementia, because Alzheimer's can become kind of a catch-all these days. And so sometimes it's important to decide what kind of dementia they're dealing with once they've ruled out all other causes.
Mm-hmm. How would somebody find out which doctors are familiar with dementia and Alzheimer's?
Generally, they're neurologists. If they are able to get into a gerontologist for a beginning, that is wonderful. We don't have enough gerontologists to handle all our elders, but that is really the place to start if they can get in to see a gerontologist, because from there, a good gerontologist will direct the people to other doctors if they don't feel that they have the expertise to make that diagnosis. If they can't get into a gerontologist and they see, say, their family doctor, they can test for a UTI or something of that nature, but they probably people should go and see a neurologist and maybe check ahead, see if they deal with Alzheimer's. Word of mouth is still great with doctors, just like it is everything else. So if they have friends who have had a diagnosis or been to doctors because of memory issues, certainly I would advise the families or the people themselves to look around and ask too.
Okay. What did you learn when caring for your 6 elderly family members and your elderly neighbor?
Well, it's hard to put in a nutshell. I learned a great deal from them, but I learned compassion. Not that I was not a compassionate person to begin with, I guess, or I wouldn't have done it, but I really, really learned compassion for their losses. The losses that occur during the aging process, I often compare to a rose losing petals, and it can be gradual, but it can also, in the end, be devastating. So compassion is number one. Also, respect and dignity are due the elder no matter what they have wrong with them. Elders are not our children. They are adults with a legacy, and they should be treated as such. Also, each elder is different, so even if you have 2 people that have the same disease, they may show different symptoms or behave differently, so it's important to treat them uniquely.
Okay. What made you decide to start Minding Our Elders?
I wrote my book while I was deep into, there were 5 of my elders remaining, and my whole life revolved around elder care and child rearing and going to doctors. And it really, I did feel quite alone. I felt other people did, and I began my book as kind of a therapy and a catharsis. My dad had brain surgery that was to correct the ill effects of a World War II brain injury. What happened was it threw him into dementia overnight. That was really the catalyst. He's on the cover of my book. I had to work through the pain of seeing my adored dad turned into a different man by a failed surgery. From that book grew the website and blog and all the other things I've done in the elder care field.
I'm sorry to hear about your dad.
Oh, it was horrendous, and I just answered a question. In fact, I'm writing a column now, or an answer to a woman for my next column. Same thing happened to her from surgery, and she said people just don't understand what can happen with elders in surgery, and she had the same thing. It's devastating because the medical people generally don't want to acknowledge what happened because they're afraid of lawsuits, probably.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, yeah, it's horrible. But that was my catalyst, and that Dad is on the cover of my book, and a great deal of what I write about when it comes to dementia. His was not Alzheimer's, obviously, but I learned a great deal at a time when not too much was known.
Yeah. Can you tell me what Minding Our Elders is about?
Well, the book, Minding Our Elders, the subtitle is Caregivers Share Their Personal Stories, and it provides insight into family caregiving through short interviews with 20 caregivers. It also has my 7 experiences with my 7 elders. I set it up so that people can find the stories that most reflect their own experiences. And I've been told by many people to keep it for bedside reading because what they do is they'll go through these very short little encapsulated stories and say, wow, that's me. And that's one that will help keep their heads above water because they relate to that one caregiver who is going through a similar circumstance. So what it's about, it's there to support people, and it's real stories about real people and in their own words.
When is it time to move an elderly loved one to assisted living? How do you know it's time?
From the elder standpoint, I believe it's when they are no longer safe living on their own, or they become so isolated that their lack of socialization is affecting them mentally and physically, and they can then start showing dementia symptoms simply because they're so isolated. The other reason would be from the caregiver standpoint. I believe it's because before the caregiver gets so burned out that he or she is no longer capable of providing care alone. A caregiver's own health can be compromised if strain's too great, so assisted living or other help, I think, should be thought out before this happens, and that can free a person up to be a son or a daughter rather than just constantly be doing the physical things that drain you to the point that you can't actually interact with your loved one on a personal basis because there's no time.